Now, here are the steaks that were in the freezer. You can see they're nice and cold. So what you want to do too, though, with these steaks is set the timer for 45 minutes and start checking them, because you don't want to freeze them. But see, they're very bright red color. They look just like a steak now. And so the first thing we want to do is get them ready to be bagged. So we're going to take a piece of paper and we're going to wrap it around the bone from either side. And what this does is going to help protect the bone from sticking through the bag when we actually seal these in the bag. And then we're going to take and wrap them tight in plastic. And again, what we're trying to do is stop the oxidation process on these steaks from happening as much as possible, so they keep their color, because we may have to hold these up to 3 days. So again, we want to make sure that these are packaged perfectly. The bone is covered so it won't puncture through the plastic bag, and then they're wrapped. And then we're going to seal bag these after. You can see I have my station set up over here. We'll go through that, but let me get these steaks wrapped first. Then we'll start the next step, which is the bagging process, which is a little bit different. Again, it's pushing oxygen out of the bag to ensure we keep that brilliant red color on the steak, that it doesn't get any discoloration. Okay, so let's revisit where we've been so far to get our steaks to this point. So our steak so far, we took the 109 oven ready rib and we Frenched it, meaning we cleared the bone off and made that nice and clean. Then we did a seasoned rub, let it sit, saturate overnight. The next morning it went into the smoker at 225 degrees with 3 logs for 90 minutes. Then it came out, we separated into steaks, which you see here. It went into the freezer. At 45 minutes we started checking them. As soon as the steaks hit 42 degrees or below is when we started this packaging. We packaged them with a piece of paper around the bone to protect it and wrapped in saran wrap, because what we're trying to do is protect the steak from as much oxygen as possible. So this is where it's going to change from what you currently know as far as using the seal bag. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the steak in there, and since the paper is on the seal bag, it stops it from on the end of the bone, it stops it from breaking through. So now we're actually going to take and we're going to push the steak down into this pan of water that I have here. And what happens is the pan of water, the water puts pressure on the bag, forcing the oxygen out of the bag. And so we're going to go ahead and take and get our bag lined up in here first before we push it all the way in. So once we have our bag through the seal bar, we're going to go ahead and take and we're going to push our steak down in there gently. And what you're going to see when I pull it out is you're going to see that all the air has been devoided out of the bag by this process. And what's doing that is the pressure of the water. And so now we'll hit our seal bar. And then once I pull that out again, you'll now see that there's really not that much oxygen in there, and it's a lot easier this way. And what we're trying to do again is stop that from having any kind of air in there, so the steak keeps its color. We're going to still add a second seal on there, and I'm going to put the sticker on the outside, unlike most of the times we do the packaging like this, just because it's going to be easier, and it's not going in a tank, so we don't have to really protect the sticker as well, since it's not going to go into a water tank. So now, as you can see, the steak is in the bag and it has almost no oxygen in there, and so now it's ready for line service. So these is how they'll be packed up. As soon as I get all 7 of the steaks done from the roast, we'll apply the sure date sticker to it, the day dot, and get them ready to go into the cooler for use on the grill. Okay, so we've gone through the process now of getting these all bagged and ready. So you can see we've pushed all the oxygen out of the bag. We have a nice tight seal on the bag. Got as much air as possible, wiped them down. And then we'll see what I did when I stickered them all. I put the sticker down on the face of it, but down by the bone, so we can always see the face of the steak, so we know what condition the steak is in. We know how we're doing with that, because we want to make sure it stays this really pretty red color that it is. And now having it in a bag with as least oxygen as possible, having it wrapped, having the bone covered so it can't pierce it, is really going to make us be able to maintain these steaks for up to 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. But hopefully we'll be selling a tray of these a night. And so now these will go into the walk-in. You'll keep one on line. maybe 2. You'll have to look at your sales mix as time goes on, but they need to be trayed like this and not stacked, because they are heavy and they'll be pressing on each other, and I don't want them to get pressed out or anything like that. I don't want them mashed into each other, so they keep the shape, because you'll see they're going to have a very beautiful plate coverage and presentation. But again, real quick, where we start with a 109 oven ready rib. We went through the bone Frenching process where we cut the fat off and then scraped the fat off in between all the bones. We put 1 cup of Montreal seasoning on it, evenly distributed that over the top. We let that sit overnight to saturate the seasoning. In the morning, we preheated the smoker to 225 degrees with 3 logs for 30 minutes prior to putting it in. We put it in with the belly side out for 90 minutes, keeping it closed the entire time, because we want to make sure we get as much smoke flavor in this outer ring as possible. When we pulled it from the smoker, it was about 88 degrees. We cut the faces off of either end. Then we used our French knife and we split between the bones, creating our steaks anywhere between 33 and 38 ounces. We then let them go in the freezer, and at 45 minutes we started checking them to make sure we get them cooled to 40 degrees. As soon as they were cooled to 40 degrees, we wrapped them in plastic, covering the bone with paper. And then we went through the bagging process I just showed, where we put the bag into a pan of water which pushes the air out, double sealing it, and then we wiped them down, put the sure date on the outside. Now they will go in the cooler, and then we'll be grilling them to order. So this is now the last and final step before these go to the grill to be cooked for our guests. And remember too, this is about a 30-minute cook time when done properly, done in only low zone 2. You'll see that in the next video, but we're now to the last and final step before we start the preparation for our guest.